Good morning, good evening, good night, good time of the day. Boys, downloading soon. Episode 5. The second run. Yeah, we said 4 originally, so this is putting us into the second run. We're doing more.
Yeah. Yep.
And Gotham Knights. If you can see just the hint of a bat signal behind our faces, that's a dead giveaway. But Chunt, I'm expecting some feelings from you as the resident DC nerd.
Yeah.
And Dan has pointed out before, we're expecting some stats and some analytics from you. Mr. Halftime. There you go. You've got a nickname as well.
That's true.
Mr. Halftime.
Mr. Halftime.
Mr. Halftime.
Right, so yeah, Gotham Knights, as per usual. The format for the show being what we know, what we want, and what we think is going to happen. And take it away with some stuff that we know. Now, this happened recently, so I'm going to throw straight to you, Chunt, as you were, watching everything at the fandom. So we found out there. What did we find out about Gotham Knights?
It's a game that exists, apparently. It's evident. It's a 4-player experience that can be done single player or co-op, multiplayer. It looks to be open world, or they've confirmed it's open world of Gotham. It's not in the Arkhamverse. Spoilers, Batman says he's dead, but that's a bait and switch, I swear. And looks like it's heavily RPG mechanics like Assassin's Creed recent games and Arkham Combat. And you've got Nightwing, Red Hood, Batgirl, and Robin. Didn't check if it was Tim Drake or if it was Damian Wayne. I'm pretty sure it's Tim Drake. It's Tim? Oh, fuck yeah, he's my favorite Robin. Well, that's another green tick on the game, I guess. Yeah, and that's about it. Mr. Freeze confirmed. Court of Owls confirmed. Yeah. That's what we know.
The only change to make there would be, although there are 4 players, it's his 2-player co-op, not 4.
Oh, it's 2-player? Oh, look at that.
Which,
cool.
Yeah, I think is a good thing, which we'll obviously touch on in a little while. Dan, anything else we need to know, should know, do know about the game from a statistical perspective?
Statistics. Well, statistics, we know. I didn't realize this. I don't know if you guys did. That Warner Brothers Montreal apparently has more employees than Rocksteady do. That actually kind of surprised me. So they're anywhere between 300 to 500 people, and Rocksteady's like 239 or something like that. And we always talk about on this podcast where we're like, oh, Rocksteady, God, they haven't made a game. Like, they made Arkham Knight in 2015 and then Arkham VR in 2016. They haven't made a game in so long. Do you remember when Arkham Origins came out?
Oh, must have been 2013.
It was before 9.
Yeah. 7 years or 8 years between drinks. That's a long time.
Jeez.
That is a long time.
But did they not make the thingy games in between that? The Lord of the Rings thingies? Shadow and Mordor,
No, that was Monolith.
Under Warner Brothers. So it wasn't
under Warner Brothers.
Fair.
So apart from that, they worked on the DLCs like for Arkham Knight, like in a supporting role. But yeah, they haven't made a full-on game since Origins, which I found surprising.
Which may I add are stronger than the core campaign. Just my opinion. I think you share it as well, don't you? The the not the DLC stories, the little kind of minor things, but those big expansions they did, they let you basically go and take down the rogues gallery, were better than the core campaign. Like, that's what I wanted to get to in terms of playing it recently, but I just couldn't. The tanks did me in. I was saying to you guys yesterday, within 25 minutes of starting it, I was just like, nah.
I 100%ed the Arkham Knight game besides the Riddler trophies. So I had a few to go and I just couldn't.
Oh yeah,
couldn't do them. But just circling around the Rose Gallery wheel and doing all those paths. I really had a good time with that because you just get the tanks done out of the way, then you don't have to worry about them ever again.
Yeah.
Worst. But look, I'm trying to not be too kind of down about this new game. It's just I think we're touching on it with what we know on this what we know section in the chat. Dan, I think, mirrors my sentiment about it's a sign of just where the games are just going in general, like overall. And I'm kind of kicking and screaming into this new world of the new standard that is the service-based games or the overly expansive ones. And look, as a DC fan, yeah, do I want massive DC games that I can just delve into as my go-tos into that universe? Of course I do. But at the same time, I'm just like, all right, why can't I just have another Arkham Knight, like a big game like that? This one it makes me nervous because it kind of rolls into the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League as well, where they're both kind of, that'll be another video, of course, but it's the same. You got 4 characters to play as that we know of. It's a big open world, and you'll be doing stuff in it. One's probably more of a games of service than the other, but like I've mentioned it before, Assassin's Creed Origins was the first kind of real Assassin's Creed game that I was like, nah, it's just too big. And then Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I was just like, nah, it's too big. And like Witcher 3, I was like, nah, can't be bothered. And if it's like that, where it's a grind, I've got DC Universe Online for that. I know no one plays it, but I do now. Recently, I've been on there a fair bit. I'm just concerned about it. I'm trying to not be too down or getting my hopes up about anything until I know more about it. I mean, what we saw with the Mr. Freeze portion of the gameplay, that was awesome, and it looked like just a campaign mission from the Arkham games. Like, it felt like coming home in that regard. But when you see the earlier section of that gameplay demo, where you've got all the little dudes with the numbers above their head, like their levels and all that kind of stuff, it just made me go, oh, all right, am I going to be level gated into certain areas of Gotham, like Arkham Origins? Was it Assassin's Creed Origins? Where that I just couldn't be bothered at some point. I was like, no, bugger off. Like, don't lock me off to part of the game because I just, you want me to go over here and grind for 10 hours just so I can get through the next campaign section. No, thank yous. And that kind of stuff is concerning me already.
I don't think they'll do that though. And this is, a little bit more of a transition to kind of what we want, but in terms of knowing those are there. If you look at some of the commentary and Fallout since, it indicates that you can play stuff at whatever level you are. When they were talking about the freeze fight, and it's like it will play very differently at 5 or 15. I think it's going to be a case of the world will scale around you, which is an option in Assassin's Creed. In Odyssey, you can have the world scale to you around you, or you can have it level gate you. The issue in that game, as I've touched on in the past, having recently played it, is the level of which you gain experience and level up. That's the problem. And looking at the way those meters were rising in this demo, I don't think that's going to be a huge issue, at least not early on. I'd kind of like it if you get to the stage where you finish the game, it's like end game, and now there is members of the Rogues Gallery that have resurfaced and you need to go and take out, and it's like, yeah, but you need to be level 40 to go do that. Like, this is end game content and you get something really cool at the end of it. I'd be happy for it to go that way and that length, but I agree with you. I don't want this to be a games as a service or a constantly level capping and power capping to get to content. It's not that type of franchise. Dan, you're waiting with bated breath to get your 2 cents in, so I'll let you go.
Yeah, well, just that I had 2 more things to pull up, and the second one probably feeds more into what you're saying. But the first one was actually Jason Schreier on the 8th of August when they Warner Brothers for Rocksteady released that image. He actually said in his tweet that Warner Brothers Montreal was working on a suicide game until it was cancelled in late 2016, which makes sense because at the end of Origins you had the tease, the post-credit scene with Deathstroke there. And then at some point at the end of 2016 or 17, Rocksteady started their Suicide Squad game. And then someone else asked, so does that mean the Warner Brothers are working on the Court of Owls game? And Schreier comes back saying, yeah, they were doing a Damian Wayne Batman game, and then that was cancelled / rebooted as well. So that's kind of the trajectory in terms of how long they've been. And then the last bit, which is like this is a 4chan thing, so I don't, and this is what they put on there. And I think there's some interesting ideas in here, which I can see from the gameplay and in terms of the level capping, like you were talking about. So in the leak, they state that the game is titled Batman Gotham Knights, so half right. It will be a large open world city divided into 17 districts, and with each district controlled by an elite talon. It features playable characters including Batman, wrong, Nightwing, right, Damian Wayne's Robin, half right, and Batwoman. So with that, I think that 17 districts is a very interesting thing, because that kind of makes me feel like if you've got your 4 characters, you have your 4 different, like it's almost like they'll try and get you to play as each of them in 4 different districts, and at the end there'll be this last district which is like the big bad, which, like you mentioned, Sean, I'm pretty sure is going to be Batman. So then the last district is you have to fight this elite talon who is Bruce Wayne, who is Batman.
Yeah.
That's in terms of, but by doing it that way, by having these districts and having these different elite talons that you fight in each district, yeah, and meaning you can go to any district and complete whichever one you want, and as you level up, the villains you face at the elite talon you face at the end will level up to you. In terms of what I want out of this game, this is as a pure thing, this is not exactly what I wanted. It is not as egregious as this Rocksteady game, which we're going to talk about another day. The co-op thing does worry me. But it just, the thing is, so much of it makes you think of Arkham that you're like, I wish they just did their own newer thing. So, like, as an example, it's like having someone direct your movie, cast all the people, create the world and the vibe, and have another director come and finish it off, which sounds familiar, being DC property and all. But it's like Freeze sounds like Freeze, you know, like, and so why? And in Arkham City, when you saw Freeze last, there was nuance to the character, and because it was telling a story, it could deliver Freeze in a particular way. This just feels like, all right, we're hitting. It feels like video gamey. Like, okay, now we're out to the boss battle, and he's doing bad things, and we're gonna fight him. It seems really structured and not. Yeah, and nuance is probably the best word I have. Like, it doesn't feel like they're putting their priorities into something that is not something that I want.
But John, what do you, Dan kind of just led us in there with into the kind of, you know, what he wants the game to be. Yeah, in an ideal world, what do you want this to actually come out and be? Now you've had kind of the first teaser of it.
Well, look, you know, I know Batman sells. Yep, that's cool. The Bat family sells, all that kind of stuff. Very rarely does Warner Brothers these days seem to be able to introduce a new property or a new animated movie without having Batman in it. And they've even just announced several others that are to showcase smaller, lesser known characters, but it's like Batman subtitle new thing. So it makes sense that if they're going to make DC related games, why not just lean right into your moneymaker? I get it. I would have preferred the possibility of like a more like DC centric like roster of heroes in something of a like Marvel Ultimate Alliance or something. I mean, they're going with the co-op aspect. You know, you can swap between characters. Yeah, cool, whatever. But I really love the Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2 in particular. I didn't really like what I saw of 3. I've yet to play it anyway, but I'd really like a game like that. And I can see aspects of it in this game. Obviously, it's not the same kind of gameplay as those other types, but I don't know, like I just really wish they would try, and the Lego games do it amazingly. Like they've got such a roster of everyone in these Lego games where you're like, yeah, this is great. And as a fan, I'm like, yeah, cool. Oh, that character's in it, awesome. Or, you know, they go very obscure with some characters I never thought they would. And I want that in a big budget game like this. Just expand your horizons out of the bat-centric universe. I mean, this looks like an Arkham game, but it's not, which is weird. Like, if you're going to separate it from the Suicide Squad game, which is post Arkham Knight, why wouldn't you go a different art style or something, or what? I don't know. It's very confusing. I mean, you could probably fit this in the Arkham verse somehow. You know, Suicide Squad like Suicide Squad is set after Knight, right? So Bruce Wayne's not around. This one is like, well, Bruce Wayne's dead. Cool. But, you know, there's been stories in the past in the comics where Bruce Wayne's gone missing, but he's obviously just gone undercover or whatever, deep undercover, to go do something, to infiltrate some villain, or whatever, you know. So I could see something like that happening here, where it's a bait and switch, where, you know, he cuts himself off from the world, and he needs the Bat family to be convinced. So he cuts off all resources and just leaves them with the Belfry to go, this is what I'm leaving you. You need to make do with that because I'm not around to supply you anymore. To make him really kind of believe it. And I just know that at the end, like Dan kind of mentioned, that he'll come up at some point towards the end. There'll be some reveal that he's been infiltrating the Court of Owls, which is part of the actual Court of Owls comic book storyline, where he literally goes missing. Like, the part of the story is that people don't know where Bruce went, and he's been stuck in this Court of Owls like maze for days. You know, and he gets trapped in, you know, spoilers, whatever. But if they're heavily adapting from that, then we just know he's going to come back. And marketing wise, yeah, it's smart to drop Batman from the title, you know, to make it a bit of a surprise during the game. And that's something I'd look forward to doing. And for a storytelling aspect, yeah, that's cool. I'd like to see that. But I don't know, man. It's just, like I said at the top, just something about the game just disappointed. I was like, oh, it's one of these. You know, it makes sense for the characters and the city and the world that these characters inhabit. I just would have hoped they'd do something different, because we don't know too much about the Suicide Squad game, but a lot of people online are saying, well, what's the difference between the two? Like, what we saw, face value, is 4 people here, 4 people in that game, open worlds, action-y, doing stuff, bat-centric world. So yeah, I just don't think it differentiated itself enough. But yeah, what I'd really want is just, like, I was playing Justice League Heroes before, so I finally got my Xbox cable, so I can play that old Xbox game on my projector, and I was having a great time. Like, yeah, this is what I wanted. You know, a new one of this, a Justice League roster centric, like, RPG dungeon crawler or something, like Diablo, that kind of game, Marvel Ultimate Alliance. That's what I really would have hoped, because Montreal's a smaller. Well, Dan said there's a lot more people there, but I mean, they haven't done a lot. So I think they could have really cut their teeth on something different, you know, not copy the whole Arkhamverse type style game. Because then you got your double whammy. You've got another game type here, and then you can look forward to the next Arkham game in 2022. So that's kind of the main reason I'm disappointed in it, you know, as well as everything else I mentioned. So that's what I would want if you really had to ask me.
Yeah, I think I've got a bit more of a positive read on it, because I do see the evolution, and whether that is through rose-tinted glasses or whatever you might say, but I see an evolution of the systems, and how those kind of predecessors felt. And the predecessors, to me, they show their age. As I said, kind of trying to go back through Night, having, you know, recently been through Odyssey, shows me just how that type of a formula and that kind of hand-to-hand and moment-to-moment, like, it can be changed meaningfully and to make it more fun. And I think this is the natural evolution. I agree with what you're saying, you know, around the kind of choice of direction with the people, but those people, you know, are by and large interchangeable, right? Unless you go real deep cut and start to look for, you know, very, very, very different types of, you know, character flaw throughout it. So, I mean, yeah, much more positive, I think. it should open up, I think, to some kind of post-launch agreement or content or anything like that. But it'll be good to see kind of the direction that they take afterwards, because I think leading up to completion and being ready for consumption, there's still a lot more to be seen.
I want to say I am mostly positive on the game. It's more there are things that I see that I can see the potential of them going completely the way that I don't want it to go with the co-op stuff. Like if it's co-op like co-op was in like the original Watch Dogs, where it's like, oh, you didn't, like, this is not egregious at all, you just don't have to participate at all, that's going to be all right for me. If each of the skill trees and that for each of these characters can be leveled up and I can get different moves for each of them, I might actually get into that, because that might feel like I've got 4 games in one, in a way, but like smaller games, so there are things where I'm like, this could go really the right way, or it could, or coming up leading into this game they announce stuff and it turns me off. But it's I have more positive thoughts for this than the Rocksteady game, and I'm really curious to see about how they upgrade these characters, and as long as they don't stranglehold upgrading your character, like they give you heaps of experience at the beginning of the game and then they just shut you off. And because we've only seen them do Arkham Origins. Well, sorry, because I was just going to say, I'll finish off. I was just going to say, because we've only seen them make Arkham Origins, which was meant to be just a replica of something another studio is doing, we haven't seen them start with their own direction, so we don't know what this studio is like with that stuff.
So is there anything else kind of across as what I mean, to sum up what I want an experience like AC Odyssey, but in the Arkhamverse. I would have wanted it to be a continuation of Night, and it teed itself up beautifully to be that, with the explosion at the end. There's a bomb gone off at the start of this, like there's been an explosion and Bruce Wayne's among the people that have been caught up in it. It perfectly set itself up, and it could have still been a Court of Owls centric game. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's a bit weird that they've made that choice, but I mean, yeah, as you said,
I guess because that's what was starting to confuse me, because I was like, when they're like, and Gordon's dead, and I'm like, he didn't die in Arkham Knight, did he? And then you see Barbara standing. I'm like, she's meant to be in a wheelchair. So there was all these little things that felt a little off watching that trailer, and then you realize at the end, after the fact, it's like, oh, this isn't connected. I'm like, well, looks really, really similar, guys.
Yeah.
So
it looks like a continuation, but they've had to take some liberties, I think, to go in the direction they want to go in ultimately, which I don't think is what any of us would have wanted. So we can move from there into kind of what we think is going to happen. I think we've all got some different thoughts on that. So we'll start over there with the man in the middle.
Oh boy. So what I think is going to happen is it's going to be more clear when we know more about it. I mean, this comes out next year, so there's still a long time, and this gameplay is in alpha, so anything could change. And based on the feedback, I mean, they're probably very deep in production, obviously, but I think based on some feedback, there's time for them to adjust some things. But what I think is going to happen, if I wanted to be very pessimistic about it, is that it's going to be like heavily DLC related content, like downloadable characters, like it seems to be the norm these days, and that's a concern. Are we going to have another exclusive character process happen? Like, we all joke about that Spider-Man, which that's a joke in itself, but next thing you know, Xbox will be like, yeah, look, we've got Azrael or something, or Spoiler as a exclusive character, or a very obscure like Cassandra Cain Batgirl or something, which is a fan favorite. But well, I think I'm a bit hypocritical, because I've been saying for ages I want more DC games. because they just don't make enough. And now we've got 2 new big games coming, and I'm like, that's not what I wanted. It's like I order pizza and they forget to put the bacon on it. You know, it's like, oh damn it. But
Still gonna eat the pizza.
Yeah, I'm still gonna eat it. And when these games come out, I'm still gonna play them because it's DC, and I want to escape into that world more as much as I can. Because I just love all the characters and the worlds, and the cities are not in our world as well, so it's another escape path, and they're all larger than life, and I'm all about that universe, more so connected to that than I am the Marvel games. So, you know, I can see myself playing it. I'll probably love it, and I'll just look back at this and go, oh, what the hell was I thinking? But, you know, what I think is going to happen, it'll be fleshed out enough. Like if they've got 17 sectors in it, I just hope it's not watered down and stretched out as far as these elite talons. Like, how are they going to be varied? Like, are their attack styles and combat patterns, are they going to be varied enough so it's not like you're just fighting the same thing at different levels? Like, I can see maybe they might be incorporating some kind of nemesis system into this, like if they have that kind of WB games synergy happening, sharing resources. Like, I mean, that could be pretty cool. So I think it'll be a hit. I mean, visually it looks amazing. It's even in alpha, and I'm already happy with how it looks. Like, it's, considering it's Gotham Bat centric, it's pretty bright. The colors stand out and they pop. The Mr. Freeze segment looked awesome. So if we get more stuff like that as the boss battles throughout the game, and it'll find its audience, and I'll probably be one of them. But yeah, I joke about the DLC characters, and I hope that's not a thing, but you just know it is. Like, this game and the Bat-centric family lends heavily to that as an option, like with Batwoman as well. That's another popular character. And like all the other Bat-centric ones, like Red Robin, which is an older Tim Drake, and then you've got Damian Wayne that you can introduce in there. There's like 2 different Azraels. There's Lucius Fox. His son, can't remember his name right now, is a type of Batman. Yeah, and there's what's the other one? There's a couple of new ones. Drake, like when Tim Drake becomes his own thing, he breaks off from Robin and Red Robin. Recently, he just calls himself Drake, like the bird, but it's very like very cringely, tongue-in-cheek. Like, it's his name. You know, like, why? It's your superhero thing, and you want to hide your secret identity, so you call yourself Drake. Right on, Tim Drake. Good on you. But yeah, all that kind of stuff. Like, I can see that rolling out in some kind of plan, like this Avengers game has done. And yeah,
I think it'll wind up being more traditional than you're expecting. I think it'll stick to the formula of Knight, especially with the the availability of post-launch content and downloadable costumes and things like that. That, I think, is a shoo-in. I also think you're correct in the fact that you will like it. I think you need to stop feeling sorry for yourself, and you will enjoy it. We will look back on this a year from now, and you'll go, man, what the fuck was I talking about? I fully see that happening, and I really do see them using the Nemesis system for the Talons from Shadow of War and Mordor, because it's too good a system to not use. And back when that system became a thing, and we all experienced that or saw it for the first time, we was like, man, that'd have been great in the Arkham games. You've got like gangsters or mob bosses moving up through the chain and what have it. The Talons are a perfect way to do that. If one kills you, it gets more powerful, and you're gonna have an even harder time the next time you come up against it. I'm all for that. The only other thing that I could place on this is probably we will see some kind of monetization after the fact. It's WB. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
I just hope it's not in the vein of exclusive characters and things like that, like you said. But no, I don't think there's anything there I don't agree with in terms of what will happen. It will be successful, and I only hope that it leads to us eventually getting the cancelled game that you were talking about, Dan. the Damian Wayne centric one, because his, not necessarily comic arc, I can't speak to reading it, but the animated movies of his arc, you know, growing through the ranks as a Robin and becoming kind of, you know, son of Batman and all that kind of era was outstanding. So if you could do something like that inside of the Arkham universe, the video game worlds, that'd be unreal. But yeah, lastly to you then, what do you think, mate? What's it going to be? What's going to happen?
Well, typical me, I always got to predict when these things come out, and I'm predicting June next year. I think Arkham Knight was released around June. They're all kind of around that time. It's funny you to talk about like the characters or downloadable characters in that 4chan leak. It also mentions that you know, Harley Quinn is apparently a bonus pre-order character, but they don't know what for or why, whether that's like a villain or
it wouldn't
something.
surprise me. She's currently a member of the Bat family in the comic line because of her psychiatric background. She's currently helping Bruce Wayne or Batman dealing with some mental things. So she's there's a infamous comic panel that got released recently where you've got all the Bat family on the roof talking to Batman, like confronting him about something, and Harley Quinn is there just chilling amongst them all. So
I like your idea though, Jamie. Yeah, I think, I don't know if it's for a sequel, maybe it's a sequel, maybe they can do it during the story, but I don't know how you do this without totally stuffing up progression, where you have Damian Wayne take over one of the characters, like maybe one of the characters you play as actually gets rid of, but then you lose your progression. So that might be like a sequel idea or something.
I mean, yeah, the logical, the comic way of doing that would be Nightwing to Batman, Robin to Nightwing, and then you bring Damien in as Robin. You'd expect. I mean, Chunt, you're more familiar with that than I am, but that'd be my expected path.
There was a comic line about the battle for the cowl where Batman went missing, sent through time by Darkseid's Omega beams, and they're like, "We need a Batman," and they all had to like fight each other to take the mantle, which evidently ended up being Dick Grayson. But they all have their own thing. Damien's just been a Robin. Tim Drake has been Red Robin when he broke away and had his own thing. Dick Grayson went from Robin the Nightwing and to Batman, but they all kind of blended. Like the Robins, they have their own trees to go through. So look, it could happen, but I don't think they'll make it that in depth. Like you've got 3 Robins and one mainline Batgirl, which is Barbara. Unless you want to really get into the nitty gritty with like Stephanie Brown and Cassandra Cain, But yeah.
So in saying what I think, like I think for instance, the story will be a fun story, but it won't be like, in Arkham Knight, spoilers, I guess, for that game, but it won't be the thing of, oh my god, the Joker is in your mind and how is that affecting the psyche of Batman and like all this stuff you can delve into if you wanted to. I don't think this game will have that, but it will be like, hey, you get to go over here and fight the League of Shadows in this district where Ra's al Ghul is, and in this district you can fight Freeze and whatnot. Like it'll just be a fun game. I was hoping for a little bit more, but that,
just before you move your point, I think the some of the onus in taking it out of the kind of continuity of the Arkham kind of saga, that's maybe a reason why, so that they can bring all of those characters back and they've not been done away with or had their stories end or be jailed or whatever it might be. Like they're all just there, they're roaming and they're there to be taken down.
Yeah
Makes sense.
No, good point. But yeah, in terms of I think there's probably, we only have like a sliver of information, so it's probably why I'm not just jumping the gun too much yet. But I think this game will just be what it is essentially portraying itself to be, apart from Batman. It will,
although he's
there
definitely
won't be too much different. There won't be too much surprise to the game, which some people are probably just, because we're wanting news right now and we're wanting new things, people are looking at this being like, oh my god, could this be it? Could this be it? Could this be it? But really, in the end, it just might be what they present. You can play this game with another person or by yourself. You go to a district, you fight some guys, and you level up, and that's the game.
I'm fine with that. I'm really fine with that. I like the idea of the just 2-person co-op. That's good. That means feasibly any of us could just go.
Not egregious.
Yeah, I'm online. I'll jump in and mow some dudes down with you. Like, do it. all for that. So kind of as a final point, and you kind of touched on it there already. Window for coming to us. I think Q1 next year. Can't put it anywhere specific, and I think it may well have been ready for the end of this year, but given what's going on with the world at the moment and the kind of plethora of experiences we have coming at the end of this year, it's probably wise to move it. So yeah, I think Q1 of next. Can you say June?
June 4th. June 4th.
That's very bloody specific.
Friday. Well, it's June 4th, and that would be just before E3 as well, so you can release the game, and if there is an E3, they don't have to worry about showing it off. They can be out before it.
Mr. Chunt?
It'll be definitely out within this financial year.
From completely and utterly like pinpoint precision of a date to just sometime this financial year.
I think they'll look, April sounds good to me. April, June, that period. You see a lot of games coming out around then doing well these days, so makes sense. But I think they'll try and push it as far as they can. They'll get it in before tax time, and they'll get all their bonuses and stuff, and they get extra time allotted to the game.
Yeah, I
think
to
note that it's also coming to PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Series X, and Windows.
Yeah, I mean that's another thing that makes me think it was 100% supposed to be ready. It wouldn't surprise me if it was now. That August, September window, maybe October, but yeah, I think February for me, February or March, somewhere there. So we'll see, obviously, as we learn more who gets closest to that. But unless we've any other breaking opinions here, I think we're coming to quite a natural conclusion. So yeah, well, hype scale, where are we? I mean, we discussed this among ourselves, but Dan?
Yeah, I'm at a 7. I'm good. I'm good for now. It leaves me plenty of room for them to show me something exciting.
John?
Yeah, middle of the road. Hey, I'd have to say 6 or 6.5. Like, I need to know more. Like, the first impression was like, yeah, okay, all right, just everything I've just mentioned. But I'm sure closer to the time I'll get more hyped about it when I know more about it, and my DC genes will kick in, and I won't shut up about it when that happens.
I mean, in reality, it's just because there's no Superman, right? That's just what's got your beef up. That's what's got your back up.
Far out. Let me tell you, I can't believe that DC fandom had nothing to do with Superman in it. That whole 8-hour run was like, the only thing that was Superman was the Snyder Cut, and Henry Cavill was there for a question for Zack Snyder. But DC Comics, as far as the comics and games and an actual announcement for a new movie, was nothing. And I was like, God, they had a special announcement window and everything that was unannounced. And I'm like, oh, here we go. It's either going to be something Superman related or not. And it was not. So yeah, I want a Superman game.
Those are the only two options, aren't they? It's either Superman or it's not.
If you think back to conversations like many a moon ago, I did tell you he's not as popular as you think he is.
I know he's not, and that's disgusting. It tells you what kind of world we're living in right now when Superman isn't cool. The beacon of hope, and the light in the darkness, and he was born of the Depression era. of World War II, and we're kind of getting that way again. Why doesn't he not appeal to people now? It's like, oh, far out. I'll hang on to hope. I'll be the Greg Miller of our team. I'll hang on to it. There needs to be a Superman game. I actually have. I picked my Superman game up from my shelf to play on my original Xbox this afternoon because I was like, ooh, I've got all these choices and DC games on this console. And I was like, God, I wish there was a Superman game. It's not hard, man. It's really not hard. But you're right. He's not as popular as he should be. No. Oh, yeah, I'm going to shut up because I will just keep going. You've put a fire under me now.
Nah, the bat is the poster boy.
Well, yeah. I mean, his comic is Detective Comics, and that's what DC stands for. So.
Right, well, we'll wrap up there then. No further things to be said. I'm sure there is at other times as we learn more, but no, good to kind of get this one done as we just learn about it. The others that we've had some time to kind of stew on. This is much more of a, well, I guess a reaction to it as well in terms of thoughts. But no, we'll leave it there, and we'll talk to you later on.
Bye.
Bye.